Good morning, y'all. It's Slaughter here with Rockets Round Robin here on January 8th. Brisk morning. It's the win after the Wizards game. I wanted to wait for that data to come in before bringing this to you so that we could have a more complete set of data and some more things to talk about with regards to the changing and the dynamic offense between Fred VanVleet being more of the point, and then having Jalen take over here the last couple weeks, and how that's been for the offense, the defense, and the team in general. It was a weird week, I would say. We had the Jabari Smith injury that came down. We had Amin being suspended for 2 of the games and coming off the suspension Sunday, and then and Sunday and Tuesday being inserted to the starting lineup at the 4. And then we have Tari still out, expected to play against Memphis on Thursday. So next week we should have some more interesting data with Tari back in the lineup. And then we'll see what they do with Reed Shepherd after his standout performance in Rio Grande last night. So all that being said, let's get into it. I think, got to be honest here, the data was very surprising to me based on eye test, and I'm not sure what to make of it. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes for the rest of the season, or even as we're going to be doing week to week here, just to see how the team's progressing and what exactly are they doing to be successful. By and large, I would say the transition from Fred to Jalen has not changed a whole lot of the overall team's numbers. There are definitely some good things here with the offense. As we can see in the last 7, the offensive rating is pretty dang good. We got a 119 up from 2 weeks ago, which was 115.6. Definitely better than on the season overall at 113.2. However, the shooting's up a tick. I'm not sure that makes up the difference of being 4 to 6 points more efficient per 100 possessions. I'm not, I think that's something to keep an eye on. One thing that has been encouraging is this 1.7 number. We are, 1.7 assist to turnover ratio. I think that's the fact that Jalen's been running the show, hasn't been turning the ball over, is good, right? I think one of the things that I think needs to happen over time, and you hope that it does, is that if he's going to be handling the ball as much as he is, then I think he needs to become a more dynamic playmaker. But step one in that may be limiting his turnovers and simplifying the game. Go get your shot, get to your points on the floor, and then we'll work on you becoming a dynamic distributor next year or later in the season or whatever. So let's cap the turnovers now. And so I think that's encouraging. They're still rebounding the heck out of the ball on offense, 38%. I think Amin is a more dynamic rebounder than Jabari, and I think that can account for some of it. Jabari's kind of hit or miss of whether or not his rebounding tenacity is there game to game, in my opinion. Şengün has been rebounding the ball fairly well. He's had some big rebounding games. Steven Adams making up a big portion of that. He didn't play in the Wizards game, but overall, his effect on the game, he's averaging like 7 rebounds per 36 minutes. It's pretty absurd. Steven Adams has been great and really starting to find his legs. And then he did play in the Wizards game. He didn't play much though. And then the one thing that I think is the most fascinating of all this is the pace. The last 2 weeks they have been quite slow, substantially slower than they have been all year. Not sure what to make of that. They're second in fast break points, so it's not like they're not pushing the ball. on the season. They're second, I think. They were fairly good over the last 2 weeks in fast break points. So how do you square the pace and what they're doing? Not sure. I think that's something that is going to be developing, and we'll have to look into that as the season goes along. I don't know what, I'm just not sure. It's interesting to me that the pace is slow, and like last night, it's like maybe it's because they played the Celtics. No, they've just been slow. The Lakers game, there was a 90 pace. Last night against the Wizards, it was 96. Still substantially less than on the season. Last night they were just hyper efficient. I mean, they had like a 135 or something offensive rating last night. They shot the ball over 51% from the field. I mean, they had a field day against the Wizards. Everyone played well. But then the Boston game, I think the Wizards game and the Boston game kind of cancel each other out in terms of the overall efficiency, and we're still looking at good numbers here. So the early returns, I would say, on Jalen's first 2 weeks here at running the show are at minimum, it's at least maintaining where we were. We're not seeing a spike in turnovers. We're not seeing a plummet in offensive rating. We're not seeing unsustainable shooting. We're not seeing poor shooting. It's steady, I think, which was a concern, I believe, of everyone. Whenever everyone was like, "Well, we'll just take the lows with Jalen running it because there's no juice with Fred running the show." So I think that's welcoming. Now, what we need to see, and what we have seen, at least with the Wizards game, right, is at least there are highs. There's a 135 offensive rating, juggernaut in this team somewhere, and whether that exists against good teams, to be determined. Against the Lakers, I think they were pretty high. It was like 123 or something like that, so higher than on the season. So it's there. I think we're getting maybe the best of both worlds here. And we'll just see if the shooting continues to go up a tick, every week to, because that to me is what needs to turn the corner for them to be a sustainable top 10 offense. Because at this moment, I'm not buying them as a top 10 offense, even though that's where they are in the season. So those are the things to keep an eye on. Again, it's going to be all personnel dependent. If Reed coming back, is that going to hurt things? Is that going to help things? Cam, maybe his role gets reduced with Tari coming back. Tari may be on like a 15-minute limit, and it may not matter anyway, or he may just take up the minutes that Tate's using. That'll probably help the offense. Tate is not a great offensive player. He's been fine in his spot minutes, but that ought to help the offensive juice too. So, let's see where this goes, and let's just keep an eye on it. Defensively, I think this is where more of the concerns come in, and we'll see how it is sustainable. We have a lot of tough games on the road coming up. I think the one against the Wizards was the first of like 13 out of 17 of the next games are on the road. I know we play like Memphis 3 times in that stretch, but we have some other tough games too. So defensively, I think is where we need to start focusing to seeing how this team gels with, Jalen and, being more focal on that front, how Şengün is doing, what Amin looks like at the 4, what Tari's impact is, even if he's only playing 15 minutes a game. I think these are the types of things that we need to be looking at, because the defense hasn't been great. And again, some of that is playing the Celtics. I get that. They did not have a good game. They were wildly shorthanded. I know the Celtics were on a second night of a back-to-back, and they were resting Brown and Horford, but they're a championship caliber team. They're a very, very good shooting team, even without Horford and Brown. They shot well, and the whole thing with, look at this. The last 2 weeks, our three-point frequency has been in the tank, and correspondingly, our defensive rating has been in the tank. That's the whole key. You can't allow threes, because Boston just proved the point of, if you get hot and you're shooting 50 threes, it's a lot better than if you're hot and you're shooting 35 threes. It's like a 4-point swing, and just in that, or a 4-3 swing. So it's like 12 points, alone in that. One thing that is interesting to me, and I went a little deeper in my number checking, because I was kind of interested. I was like, it seems to me that they've been converting steals into points, and that has been helping their offensive efficiency. And even though they're playing slower, it seems to me that since with the men back, that's what they've been doing. The men in the starting lineup has caused that. Now, what's interesting is, over the last week, they were second in steals. They had like 11 steals per game over the 4 games last week, but they were only getting like 2 blocks. So the stocks number is like basically the same, but they're getting it in an entirely different way with the men there. And I'm not really sure what to make of that. I don't know if that's like kind of fluky. 4 games isn't really a big number, but it is interesting. Again, I think one of the things to look out, this rebounding percentage, a man in the starting lineup to me is going to help that out, because I know he's going to go out and get 15 rebounds a game. It seems like whenever he's in there, and Jabari, has a couple games like that a year, but Amin's just really, really a game-changing rebounder, and I think allowing him to push the pace more off of those misses, I think we'll start seeing the pace pick up. But I do think that Ime is concerned about the turnovers, and and I think that it's all a stepping stone. I think we need to take our time with understanding, like, look, Ime has always been, let's get the turnovers under control. Why is that? Well, the turnovers are going to help, are going to give us the most possessions on offense, and it's going to help our defense. And if we're going to kick Fred out of the starting lineup, we need to be able to show that we can take care of the ball, because we don't want our defensive rating to be 111.6. Like, we're not going to win games doing 44.8 frequency, 100.6 defensive rating. We're just not. So that, I think, is on the defensive side of the ball against these good teams. That is where I think the focus needs to be over the next few weeks, so long as we're not turning the ball over a lot on offense. If we're not doing that, then I think everything is going to be okay. And I'm interested to see Fred's less playing time. I mean, I know we're talking about defense here, but Fred's usage over the last 4 games or 5 games has been in the teens or less. It's like been 14%, 11%, 12%. So, I mean, he's really taken a step back. And he's playing fewer minutes. So I want to see what the defense does. I think that has been the most drastic change over the last 2 weeks, and I think some of that is personnel driven. At this point, I think Cam's kind of like a net neutral on defense. Then you have the insertion of Steven Adams back. Sometimes he gets cooked in the pick and roll, but he does add a lot of rebounding. So I think that can work both ways. Şengün, I think, is the key to this whole thing. I think we need to figure out whether teams are attacking him different, whether he's being a step slower because maybe he's trying to exert more energy on offense. Whatever the case may be, why has the defense fallen off? Why are we allowing all these 3-pointers? And and it's not just the Boston game, right? It's been 2 weeks of this now. So that's something that I think needs to get under control. And if we can correct that, I feel confident that we can go on this 13 to 17 games and come out 500 or better, and keep this thing moving along. But if you allow home teams to start making a bunch of threes, the crowd gets into it, the role players start playing better, that is where we're going to have problems. So those are the things I'm looking out for. Assist to turnover ratio, 3-point frequency, and the pace. I think those are the 3 things I want to look out for next week. And we'll check back in, and we'll see what everything has to say. All right, y'all. Stay warm. To all my folks out in California, I hope everyone's safe. I know our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. It's just a terrible situation out there, and we hope that stuff like this, basketball in general, can at least provide some distraction from what's going on. So our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. So, and see you next week. Thanks.